Trump promised to put America first. His slogan was, "Make America Great Again." He said, "I see the carnage that NAFTA has caused. I see the carnage." He called it the worst trade deal maybe ever signed anywhere, but certainly ever signed in this country. He said, "I'm going to rip up those trade deals. Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo." Millions of Americans voted for this, and he won. But globalists in and out of his administration convinced him to renegotiate NAFTA rather than rip it up like he had promised. They're now working to expand NAFTA. U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer, member of the Globalist Council on Foreign Relations, sent a letter to Congress on May 18th triggering the renegotiation process and outlining goals that sound very similar to the TPP, the TTIP, the European Union, and the North American Union. For background information on these globalist unions, please visit jbs.org/NAFTA and download our free report, How the Free Trade Agenda is Knocking Down America. Again, that's jbs.org/NAFTA. The European Union is looked at as the model by globalists that they want to duplicate all over the world, and they're in the process of doing just that. The process was summarized very well by this UK Independence Party official. He said the EU was sold to the British people as a trading agreement and has turned into a political union which is changing our basic laws and traditions. What he describes is the process, economic integration followed by political integration. Agreement by agreement, layer by layer, bureaucracy by bureaucracy, they have built a socialistic supranational government that is now dictating foreign and domestic policy for all 28 formerly independent countries of Europe. This is why the UK voted to leave the EU on June 23rd of 2016, but they're still trying to disentangle themselves. Why are there so many pages in trade agreements? NAFTA had 2,000 pages. Because they deal with issues that have nothing to do with trade, and they contain provisions that benefit crony capitalists to the detriment of everyone else. The U.S. Constitution only needed 4 pages to set up the U.S. government. U.S. Trade Representative Lighthizer's letter to Congress said, "Our aim is that NAFTA be modernized to include new provisions. Moreover, establishing effective implementation and aggressive enforcement should be improved." If you look at all of what he's outlining, what would be the results? Further suppressed wages and leveling of Mexican, Canadian, and U.S. economies? Unelected foreign bureaucrats regulating businesses and entrepreneurs? Expanded and aggressive enforcement of bureaucratic, environmental, and business regulations? Merger of police and military for North America. This is in keeping with the globalist goals outlined in this 2005 report from the Council on Foreign Relations. The CFR has been working on this for a long time. In 2014, a task force, a CFR task force chaired by disgraced General Petraeus, outlined these goals and more. They want us to put North America first. Their long-term goals include amnesty for illegal aliens, open borders between our 3 countries with a common perimeter, continental plan for transportation and infrastructure, etc. What they want is a merger of our 3 countries under a North American government. The Shadows of Power, Council on Foreign Relations and the American Decline, the single best compilation of evidence documenting how America has been led so far astray. 100 years of history. In the back is a membership roster of the Council on Foreign Relations where you can look up and see the media and political establishment. So when you're watching TV or listening to the radio and you can look up these talking heads, they're guest experts, and you will be amazed at how many of them are members of the Council on Foreign Relations. This is available from shopjbs.org. One of their intellectual ancestors, Karl Marx, had this to say: "Free trade breaks up old nationalities. In a word, the free trade system hastens social revolution." One of their leading members said this about NAFTA: "It is not a conventional trade agreement, but the architecture of a new international system." He called it the most creative step toward a new world order. And who hasn't heard of Henry Kissinger and his globe-trotting New World Order promoting interchanges with so many world leaders? A new international system equals the destruction of our American system. They want to repeal and replace the Declaration of Independence, the U.S. Constitution, and our Bill of Rights. And who hasn't heard of their New World Order that they're promoting? And the way they're doing it is through these socialistic supranational governments, the European Union being the most advanced of these. But they're duplicating that process all over the world. More Americans would be aware of this if the neoconservative and liberal media would inform them, but most Americans have no idea, and therefore they would never think to look up the African Union on the internet and see just how far advanced they are in the process of economic and political integration. And this process is being duplicated time after time. I don't have time in this presentation to go through all of these, but we're going to focus on North America and what they've been working on here. If you want to get up to speed very quickly on this, read the short book, International Merger by Foreign Entanglements, again available at shopjbs.org. One of the things that they're still trying to get the United States into is the TTIP, which would merge us with the socialist European Union. The European Union was established the same way they're trying to accomplish their goals here, with free trade agreements. NAFTA was the foundation. Economic integration to be followed by political integration. Once NAFTA was in place, President Clinton immediately started working on what was called the Free Trade Area of the Americas, FTAA. North and South America, 34 countries in the Western Hemisphere, regional socialistic supranational government modeled after the European Union. Pretty ambitious undertaking. Clinton didn't get it done. He passed the baton to George W. Bush, who publicly stated he wanted the FTAA fully approved by the end of his first term in 2005. Robert Pastor is the CFR point man for North America. In 2001, he published this book, Toward a North American Community, Lessons from the Old World for the New. Well, the John Birch Society launched a national campaign to expose these plans, and they backed off. So, when Bush was sworn back into office, January 2005, another attempt was made to build on the NAFTA foundation. 2 months later, he entered into the Security and Prosperity Partnership of North America with Mexico and Canada. It was better known as the North American Union. 2 months later, the Council on Foreign Relations published the book, Building a North American Community, where they outlined the blueprint for a North American Union modeled after the European Union. Their timeline on that was 2010. So the John Birch Society once again launched a national campaign to expose and thwart this agenda, and succeeded once again. Robert Pastor, in 2011, published another book, The North American Idea, in which he specifically names the John Birch Society as among the leading groups that have been the most vocal, active, and intense on North American issues, and they were effective in inhibiting the Bush administration and deterring the Obama administration from any grand initiatives. Americans, most of them probably don't know that the John Birch Society has been very active defending the freedom of all Americans. Every time we thwart the globalists and their agenda, they retreat, repackage, resell. So next time they called it the Trans-Pacific Partnership. We went to work on this years ago with our national campaign to expose it. It was a lot of hard work because nobody had any idea what in the world we were talking about. But by the time the last presidential cycle came around, candidate Trump and most of the other candidates came out in opposition to the TPP. And again, a lot of that's because of the groundswell of understanding and opposition built by the John Birch Society. And so it was stopped as well. JBS led the fight to stop every one of these attempts to destroy our sovereignty. How do we do it? Well, here's an example. This is the special North American Union edition of the New American Magazine that we distributed over 1 million copies of a decade ago. Our members work in concert, community by community, all across the country, getting the right information to the right people at the right time. Now we must do it again, and fast. We need your help. The neoconservative and liberal media and political establishment are all singing the same tune using CFR talking points. We need to update, modernize, and expand NAFTA. Crony capitalists are crying that we'll suffer losses if NAFTA is canceled. But they ignore 25 years of losses by the rest of America. Trump was right. NAFTA is a disaster. It's time to get us out of NAFTA and stop the North American Union. Visit jbs.org/NAFTA for the latest information, to learn more, and tell others. And take action. Write down these phone numbers. Call President Trump, your U.S. representative, and U.S. senators. Tell them to get us out of NAFTA. And tell Trump to dump the globalists out of his administration. Donate $5, $10, $20 or more to the John Birch Society's campaign, and join the John Birch Society to help us preserve the American system for future generations. Thank you.